We are having our Alternative Fuels for Taxis webinar. These webinars are funded by Forwarding Wisconsin's Fuel Choice, which is supported by the Department of Energy through the Clean Cities Implementation Initiatives to Advance Alternative Fuel Markets program. Under these projects, local public-private partnerships are accelerating the deployment of alternative fuel vehicles and conducting public outreach and training in communities across the country. Since 1993, the Energy Department's Clean Cities Initiative has supported community-led efforts to deploy vehicle and infrastructure technologies across a broad portfolio of alternative fuels, helping to reduce America's reliance on petroleum. These webinars will be recorded and posted on our website. If you have any questions during the presentations, please wait till the end and we will get those answered for you. Now here is John from Union Cab.
Hello and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about Union Cab's efforts at reducing our carbon footprint. I am the business manager of Union Cab. I've been with Union Cab for 25 years and have kind of been able to see us transition from our traditional taxi cab fleet to our mix today of Priuses and sedans. So let me first talk about, in general, I guess something I want to talk about. I'm kind of glad that the webinar included taxis in the Clean City program because there's a real sense that all taxi cabs are green. Each cab tends to replace about 18 or more car trips per shift. The average passenger per trip is 1.45. This is really an industry average across the nation. And so, as you can see, working in conjunction with mass transit and intercity transit, we're part of a system that really reduces cars from the road. And so the more people take cabs, actually the more affordable cabs become. And that's one of the reasons why New York City is often cited as one of the greenest cities in the world, is because over 70% of the people that live in Manhattan don't own cars, and they rely on cabs and subways. So just from the get-go, cabs are green. That's talk a little bit about Union Cab, and this kind of explains our process over the years. We're a worker-owned cooperative, so we really don't have employees. All the people that work here own one share of stock and have a voice in the organization, and as a result, we tend to work towards a safe and humane work environment, which creates then a dynamic where we have a safe and humane focus on our environment for not just our customers, but the general public. Most of the decisions are made by a 9-member board, and then this is kind of our structure. We have a steering team instead of a general manager, a board of directors, and peer review, but mostly it's about 250 owners coming together to try to make decisions. So as a result, we aren't able to just issue fiats and go forward. We have to really get a lot of buy-in from the workers, and they in turn reflect back what they hear in the cabs from our customers. So kind of talking about what we've done over the years, in the 1990s especially, there was a prolonged period where gasoline costs were going up dramatically, and at the same time propane was just starting to come on the market for cars. Badger, I think, had already transitioned, but we looked at propane and experimented with it in the 90s, and it was something that really ended up not being a very good fit for us, and then we weren't able to take advantage of some of the tax incentives that were available, and our drivers didn't really like it. And one thing led to another, and we abandoned the effort when at the point suddenly there was a drop in gasoline prices that kind of made it less viable for us to switch over to propane. However, there was still the sense that we needed to do something. And so going forward in the next couple of years, there was a growing effort among the membership, especially among newer members coming in. People, the early Gen X generations and stuff, they were coming in to work for us and really thought it kind of wrong that they were spending so much carbon and that so much of their work life was tied up in using really inefficient engines. So, getting 14 miles to the gallon was kind of a good number back in the late 90s. So the members started creating a discussion about this, and eventually created a new core value for our company, which says we're dedicated to operating our cooperative in an environmentally responsible way. And from this core value became the impetus to create our green team, which is made up of people in the management team, but also drivers. And its mission was not just to implement our core values, but also it was tasked with experimenting and finding an alternative test vehicle and getting buy-in from the entire membership. So this started in about 2007, 2008. We started with encouraging better driving habits. We had no idling program. We were actually able to get our fleet of Crown Victorias to go from about 15 miles per gallon to 16.7 miles per gallon, and roughly a 10% increase in fleet MPG. And we were actually at some point beating what a brand new Crown Vic was registered to get in MPG coming off the assembly line. So that was kind of a key point for us, is when we were able to get the membership to really focus on better driving habits to increase the fleet. And that's part of that was by checking, tire pressures and driving in a more in a way that reduces or increases gas per mileage per gallon, etc. So from that point, we started exploring alternative fuels. We looked at everything. We even looked at compressed air options. We looked at, of course, propane again. We looked at compressed natural gas. Finally settled on the hybrid electric model. And then we started testing a number of different vehicles. I think everything that was on the market at the time, this would have been in 2009. So things like the Volt and stuff hadn't really come up yet. We finally settled on the Prius, which one of the things Prius really has going for it is that it is built from the ground up as a hybrid electric. It's not a conversion. Also, it's really still kind of dominant in the market. And among all the vehicles we checked, it seemed to have the best. There was still a lot of debate, though, about it. People were worried it wouldn't really do well as a taxi cab, that it wouldn't survive Wisconsin winters, that, all of this, despite, some pretty good evidence in Alberta, Canada. They've been using Priuses for years as taxis, and their winters are basically, about a degree or two colder and more severe than our winters. I mean, that's where our data comes from. But we gave a couple of test drives, and they made it through the first winter just fine. The doors worked fine. In fact, they turned out to be very reliable and sturdy vehicles for driving cab. So we started this implementation with 1 or 2 cabs, and then we ended up with kind of having a push in 2011. And this is kind of how some of these things work, is you have a plan that you want to work, and then life takes over. So when Wisconsin changed how they assign rides for non-emergency medical transportation, we ended up having to really adjust our entire financial structure, because we, at the time, had about 90% of that market. And when the broker came in and took power away from the clinics to choose which company, we really lost a lot of that market share and had to do some reformulation inside. And so this accelerated the retirement plan for the Crown Vics. We decided to replace all remaining 35 sedans at once. Ultimately, what this did right away was it saved 8,500 gallons per month, and that turned into not only helping us financially, but also really got us into a good place environmentally. Our savings were about $30,000 a month in fuel, and then our fleet mileage went up to almost 25 miles a gallon, and ultimately we reduced our carbon footprint by 4,000 tons per year. I should also say it, oops, sorry, let me get that back. That was my last slide. I should also say, too, that one of the other things that the Prius and a lot of alternative vehicles have is reduced maintenance cost, because they aren't working with a combustion engine. The maintaining a Prius is a third of the cost of maintaining a Crown Vic sedan, and so that has its own savings as well in terms of oil and everything else. And so we really found that that this ended up doing more than just on the gasoline side, but also all throughout our whole system. We're still looking for a decent replacement for the minivans. They're very popular in Madison with both drivers and passengers. Unfortunately, there isn't really a good hybrid model out there yet that we found, so we're constantly looking for the next generation of vehicle. And that's basically my presentation. So I'll hand it back to, I think, I'm sorry, and now I think next we have from Badger Cab, Bob Frisk?
Bob Frick. Thank you, John.
Frick, sorry.
Yes, this is Bob Frick from Badger Cab, and I'm going to talk about how the use of propane as a fuel has helped our company to remain viable over these many years. So I'll tell you a little bit of history about Badger Cab and how we came to be using propane, and then go into some of the details about how it has helped us specifically. You know, it's interesting, and we all want to save and conserve. You know, when we look back, I think there was somebody wrote a book once about everything we needed to know we learned in kindergarten, and you know, it's saving your allowance and just being, we say, be conservative. Conserving resources allows you to be sustainable, allows a business to be sustainable, and you know, sustainability is defined as the capacity to endure. So the point is, Badger Cab went to an alternative fuel beginning in 1978, and it was largely out of economic necessity. But it's we talk about conservation and really conserving all resources, economic, human, financial, and environmental, is a good model for any business. And this has been conservation has been a guideline for Badger Cab since the very beginning. In addition to running on propane, we do have our offices are powered with solar fuel or solar panels. We have one of the largest solar power systems on a private enterprise in southern Wisconsin. So in addition, like I said, to propane, we do use solar energy. We recycle the oil from the cabs to heat the shop. We have really a model of conservation throughout our entire business. But anyway, you know, Badger Cab has been around since 1946. We were started originally by a group of veterans coming back from the war who wanted to establish a not just a means of transportation for people, but a low-cost means of transportation for working people, and have a place for individuals coming back from the war to work. So Badger Cab drivers have always been independent contractors. In effect, they lease the cab from Badger and go out and be fruitful on the road, and they are on their own to essentially, as far as the economic side of things is concerned. But it's the responsibility, and has been, for Badger Cab to provide an efficient means of getting around and being able to do more and more efficiently. So in 1978, when the present owner of Badger Cab took over, shortly after that, there was a tremendous spike in fuel costs, as some of us may remember, and really we looked around for an alternative. We had to do something. At the time, we weren't, you know, you couldn't raise prices, and that really was raising prices would be contrary to the model that the Badger Cab had established as being a low-cost transportation alternative. So we began to look for alternative fuels and settled on propane. There was a fleet of trucks that we found that had been successfully converting to propane, and we gave it a try. We've used different vehicles over time. We presently run Crown Victorias, and prior to that, there were some other Dodge Diplomats. But the best one has been the Crown Victoria for a number of reasons. It's a large, sturdy vehicle. We are able to accommodate the fuel tank for propane in a much better manner than we did with the previous vehicles, because of course, being a cab, you need to use the trunk, and you can't have the entire trunk taken up by an additional fuel tank. So, but the propane overall has helped us because of from a cost standpoint, of course, and this is we pay generally about a third of what the cost of gasoline is, and that's been consistent over time. We're able to buy in bulk, and as a result, we've kept our fuel cost very, very, very low over time. And the thing with propane as well, because it is not as the prices are not as consumer driven as gasoline. It's more of a commercial fuel. So as a result, the prices for buying in bulk are generally more stable, if you will, than with gasoline. So some of the, of course, the lower cost has been just a driving force of that. But we've learned to convert the Crown Victorias effectively, so our cost for conversion of a vehicle is also low. We do, all of our vehicles are generally retired, mostly retired police vehicles, or they're fleet vehicles from emergency services or police services as well. So our conversion cost is low because this is the one type of vehicle that we use. So we're able, when we do retire a vehicle, we're able to maintain some of the components of the fueling system in most cases, so not to have to replace them entirely. So we do a lot of, again, conservation comes into play here because we do use the one type of vehicle where the vehicle itself is effectively recycled. When it gets done being a police car, then it becomes a cab. Very rough life for a vehicle of any type, but we are able to keep costs down effectively in that manner. So the thing is, when we switched to propane, there were a number of reasons that the propane was the type of fuel that we chose to use. As compared to, we did look at compressed natural gas as one, but propane is easier to convert. We can do the conversions for the vehicles ourselves, and is significantly less costly than what the cost would be for converting to compressed natural gas. The availability of propane. Now, we do maintain a fueling station here at our offices, but in the event that, and cabs do, as John knows, we don't just stay in Madison. We go many places, but propane is pretty readily available, outside of our range of our offices. So that was a factor as well. We are able to get it when needed. In fact, interestingly, we had a recent situation where we had a problem with our pumps here, and needed to get some electrical work done. But we're a 24-hour-a-day business, and we run constantly. So we got on the phone and were able to get one of our neighboring businesses that deals propane, and we had cabs going up there and fueling. So we were able to keep rolling without missing a beat, thanks to the help of a friendly neighbor, basically. But these things happen. So that, again, the availability to have propane and be able to get it from places other than our own fueling station was an important factor, and one that played into our choice of using propane. As well, operational ease with propane. The fueling time to prop up a vehicle is about the same as it would be for gasoline. Until recently, compressed natural gas would there's a much longer fueling time, and I understand now that that's gotten better, and they can fuel quickly. But and as well, I mean, the drivers do fuel their own vehicles, so it is simple. The hose just simply threads on to the tank. It's opened, and the vehicle is fueled in short order. So we do. Incidentally, our vehicles are able to run on gasoline if need be. So if in cases where a cab did go for a great distance out of town, they could be switched over to gas. So they're bi-fuel basically if propane happened not to be available. So so the again, availability and the ease of operation is paramount for us being able to maintain and sustain our business and continue to run it efficiently and cost effectively. So I think and of course the other factor that goes into this when you're being conservative in a business and conserving resources, the benefits are great. The propane benefits are as far as the environment is concerned, are vast. It burns completely, so there is a significantly less hydrocarbon being put into the atmosphere as a result of our using propane. So it lowers the greenhouse gases. I mean, effectively 60 to 70% less hydrocarbons than by using gasoline. Now, the other advantages to the clean burning of propane are the fact that our engines are virtually don't wear out. I mean, it burns much more efficiently than gasoline, and as a result, we don't have the wear and tear on the engines themselves. So we're able to if we lose a cab or if we retire one, many times the engine is still effectively usable, and again, keeping the costs down. Another factor that was important with propane is that is safety. Really it's considerably less flammable than gasoline. The tanks are highly more puncture resistant than gasoline tank, and if it does get hit, it's not going to spill all over and puddle like gasoline. It'll vaporize as soon as it hits the air. So it is safer from the standpoint of being in accidents. And something that we always talk about, one of the factors with propane is it's much harder to steal than gasoline. So when the price of gas goes up and people are so inclined, it's much less likely that gasoline is going to get stolen. So there's a number of cases that have led us to use propane and enabled us to be significant advocates of using propane. It's helped our business to a great extent. Some challenges with it. I mean, compared to gasoline, nothing's perfect. Sometimes the engine diagnostics can be difficult when we're using propane. It's tougher to diagnose an engine problem if one occurs, but we've been able to get around that by being able to run the vehicle on gas. In some cases, that's how we have to do it in order to diagnose a problem, to determine if it's a propane fueling problem or an engine problem. Besides, and again, I mean, just compared to gasoline, while propane is readily available, someone's got to look a little harder for it than they would for gasoline. So that can sometimes be a bit of a challenge in using, in any alternative fuel. I would think that would become a factor. We also, again, with the soft benefits, if you will, of on the fleet, we're able to go longer between oil changes. I mean, a cab company, of course, a taxi cab is a very hard usage for a vehicle, but we're able to go 5,000 miles before an oil change, which is quite remarkable for a vehicle with this type of usage. So, and really the oil is clean when it comes out, and we are able to reuse it for heating our garage, our maintenance facility. So, I think the benefits are vast, and we're sincerely going to continue using propane. But having said that, we are constantly. I mean, things change and times change. Business changes, and we're always on the looking to the horizon to see if there are better ways. So we certainly would not rule out entertaining different alternative fuels. But I guess the long and short of it really is we're not hostage to the serious fluctuations in gas prices as we're able to buy in bulk and enjoy a significally reduced cost, and then of course the benefits to our fleet of the ease of operation to the engines and the cleanliness of the oil, and it all adds up to saving a great deal of cost for our company and making us sustainable into the future. So, the last Crown Victoria rolled off the assembly line in 2011, so we are in the process of in a period of time the Crown Vics will become less available for us. So we are looking at alternative vehicles that we would still run under propane. So that's about all I've got to say. I sincerely appreciate it. I love telling the story, and I thank you for allowing me in.
Thank you, Bob. We will now open up to any questions. If you have a question, please type it in the question box, and we will get them answered for you. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions currently. However, if you do have any questions, you can direct them to each individual speaker, or you can contact us at info@wicleancities.org or at 414-221-4487, and we can forward it on to the correct party. Actually, there is a quick question. How much do decisions by New York affect your fleet choices? John or Bob, do you have an answer for that?
How much do decisions by affect our fleet choices? I mean, in terms of, I would say, from our perspective, very, very little, really. We're more affected by, our surrounding circumstances here and the availability of vehicles for a fleet. Of course, New York is going to have very large fleets of cabs that may be larger than what we would have here in a city like Madison. So I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know. Maybe John's got some insight to that.
All right, it looks like John's having a little issue unmuting himself. If you can hold on one second.
Good, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'd agree. You would think Detroit would have a lot of say in this, but as with Badger for years, we bought cars at state auction and old fleet cars, and really it was a decision by Detroit to not really make fleet cars anymore in that sort of sense and kind of dictate what terms are. I think the bigger issue really coming up in terms of fleet is more long-term, and it's Nissan, and which has the contract in New York, but Nissan's also really going forward with computer-driven automobiles that will really replace the driver, and I think that's probably the bigger aspect of our industry is in 10 to 15 years, we may see a situation where the only human involved in ordering or taking a cab is the passenger. And but how that's all going to work, and of course, then we could be looking at purely electric cars, and since they won't need to have a driver in them, and that's where you don't need the range then either, since you can easily switch cars in and out for charging. So it's kind of a bigger picture idea of what's the future holds, but that's probably still about a decade to 15, 20 years away maybe.
Thank you, John and Bob, for your responses. Again, if you have any additional questions, please send them our way at info@wicleancities.org. And we thank you again for attending the Clean Cities Alternative Fuels for Taxis webinar. This webinar, along with the slides, will be available on our website at wicleancities.org. If you click on the event page, it will be under the Previous Events tab, as well as the Webinars tab. Thank you again for attending this webinar. We thank the presenters, and I wish you all a great week.